Good, man. What's up? What's going
Everything
on?
is good. Everything is great. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. And so we want to get into this conversation with you. We have an hour with you. And so there's a lot to cover. You have a very long career of painting and creating art and being a writer. And so we want to get into it and kind of start at the beginning with you. And so, you know, our audience is from all over the world. They don't necessarily know what you know or weren't there with you, you know, just like I wasn't there with you. And so we really want to get the details of all of it. And so from your very
Well, you're going to
beginnings
need more
until
than an
today.
hour if you want all of it, man.
All right. Well, maybe we'll go into overtime then. And so, you know, so the people that know you for this really amazing style and a really complex and elaborate style. But can you just tell us, you know, where you started? Like, you know, where did you grow up and what era in New York City were you where you first encountered graffiti?
Well, I was living in Coney Island, Brooklyn in the 60s. And during that time, I was just a curious kid. You know, there was a lot of hot rods driving around. Cars were made out of steel back then, so they were very loud and dangerous, you know. And I used to like hot rods. Every time I used to hear one come by, I used to turn around and look at them. And what caught my attention, it was you know, the show off. People that were showing off. They were showing off their cars. They were gangs just being bring out. They just started coming out. These gangs that I was just a kid, just like I said, curious of what they were doing and what they were about. But they were like, to me, they just looked so cool. It was just like man, I want to be like them. But yeah, the way they used to dress, the way they used to hang out, the way they used to walk around with these girls, and they were just cool and at the same time very dangerous, you know. So that caught my attention. 1970, I moved into Far Rockaway, Queens, because my mother and father separated. So during 1970, I used to take the train from Coney Island to Far Rockaway like almost every weekend to go visit my dad. And during that time, I started noticing graffiti on the subway trains. And I said, man, how could anybody put their name on a train? And at that, how did they do that? I mean, I didn't even know anything about spray paint then. So one thing led to another. I started asking questions. Like, I was like, yo, what is that stuff on the trains? I mean, that's somebody's name, or is that the same person, or is it just like a bunch of people just randomly just writing on them? So basically their answer was, don't get involved with it. It's not anything to get involved with. It's very dangerous. People get locked up and people get killed doing this stuff. So I was like, man, I really want to get into this stuff. I really want to know more. And as in Rockaway, I started asking my friends if they wanted to write on the walls, and they were like, nah, they weren't really into it. And I used to ride bicycles, so we used to go from Far Rockaway and ride into Long Island to these stores called a TSS, Times Square store, EJ Corvettes. And I used to go there to rack up on some bicycle parts because I used to build bikes. And one day I saw some markers and it said El Marco on it. And I said, wow, this is really cool, man. I think this is what the graffiti writers use. So I racked up all different colors, and maybe I took like 10, 20 of them. And I started tagging up on my way home. And my friend said, whoa, that's cool. Let me get a marker. So I started off a group of writers in Rockaway, which they pretty much quit like after their first time getting caught or getting in trouble by their parents. And they didn't go too far with the graffiti scene. But going from just a little El Marco marker, I wanted to make my tags bigger and more noticeable. So I asked my father, I said, hey, Dad, I need a can of spray paint to paint my bicycle. So he said, all right, I'll bring you a can of spray paint. So he came, he took the train ride from Brooklyn all the way to Far Rockaway, Queens, and he came and brought me my first can of Red Devil spray paint. And I was so happy. It was like the best Christmas gift I could ever have was this Chinese red spray paint. So me and my best friend, his name is Michael Perez. His graffiti name was SY249, which it didn't mean anything. He just wanted to pick some letters and numbers and make a name. So we started going around and we started writing all over the neighborhood. So a lot of people started saying, oh, who was this guy who wrote in my front yard? And who was this guy that wrote on the fence? Or who was this guy writing all over school? And I was like, uh-oh, I better keep quiet. So in the beginning of my graffiti career, I noticed not to brag about what I was doing because at that time, it was pure vandalism. There was nothing artistic about it. It was just like people wanted to break my neck. Yeah. So from there, when I got to junior high school, the teacher used to put me in the back of the class because I was pain in the ass. I used to disturb the class and I used to do some dumb stuff. But he used to sit me in the back, which I didn't mind being, because I used to look out the window and I used to watch the trains go by. And one name that I remember that I used to notice was Vinny. He had like every train that would go by. Like a lot of people don't really know too much about Vinny, but he was a true graffiti king back in the early 70s. And from there, I was like, man, I got to do this stuff. I want to go paint some trains. So I did a lot of motion graffiti stuff. I was tagging up the neighborhood in the school, and I used to take every book that I could get my hands on in the school and tag out my name on it. This way, when somebody opened up the book to do some homework or whatever it was, or reading it, they would see my name in it. So I told a friend of mine, his name was Chico. I said, yo, Chico, man, you write graffiti. You know anything about painting on trains? He says, oh, yeah, I know about painting on trains. You want to go? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. So me, Chico, and this other guy, my best friend, SY249, went to Grant Avenue in Brooklyn, underground train station. So I used to see the trains laid up under there when I used to take the train ride from Far Rockaway to Coney Island. So I used to look down into the tunnels, and I used to see the trains parked down there. But I didn't have no idea how to get down there or how dangerous it was. So my friend Chico said, let's go cut out of school and let's get some spray paint, let's go. So we went to this store called L.H. Martin's, and we racked up like 5 cans each, and we took the train ride to Brooklyn, to Grant Avenue train station. And he said, we got to walk through the tracks. So he said, we have to wait for the train to go by, and then we'll just run down, and it's a ladder that we're gonna see that in the tunnel, and we're gonna go down that ladder. I said, all right, sounds pretty simple. So a train went by, and we ran into the tracks, and we looked for the ladder, and at that time, there was another train coming the other way, and I was like, oh man, we're gonna get run over. So right then and there, it was very, very dangerous and very, very scary. So we get to the ladder, we start going down, and we're going down into pure darkness. So we get down in this tunnel, and there's trains parked up. There's trains parked. So I said, well, I don't want to paint on the first spot I see. I'd rather just go in between the trains. This way, if somebody comes, they won't see me. So we went in between the trains, and I found the spot because they had a lot of graffiti on the train. So I found a spot, and I started painting. So my friend, my partner, SY249, his name is Spike. He went by Spike. He said to me, he said, yo, man, there's somebody coming our way. I see somebody. And I'm like, I look, and I'm like, I don't see nothing, man. There's nobody there. So I started painting my name. It's coming out drippy and sloppy because it's like my first time watching over my shoulders and all that. So he said, yo, there's somebody coming, man. Look again. So I look again. I'm like, there's nobody there. So I started painting again. This time he didn't tell me nobody was there. I turned and there was somebody standing right next to me. It was this tall black dude, about 6 feet tall, wearing these glasses, just looking down at me. And I'm like, ugh. I took my cans, I just tossed it over my shoulder, and there I went, running like a scary cat. I tripped over the third rail, got back up, almost put my hand on the third rail, got back up, ran a little, like 50 more feet, tripped again over some wires, almost touched the third rail again, got back up, running, didn't look behind me. I didn't care about my friends. I was just thinking about getting out of there. So I'm running through the tracks, I trip again, fall down. Now I'm all like, dust is all over. My face got dirty. My eyes got dirt in it. So I picked a pillar under the train and I just hid. So I heard my friend Spike screaming, like, my leg. So I'm looking around. He says, my leg. So I look and I see him just walking like nothing was wrong with his legs. So I said, yo, man, what's wrong with you? Why are you saying my leg? He said, that's the only way you would stop. So I said, oh, yeah, well, I was smart. So I'm like, well, we can't go back to the same train station. Now we're going to get busted. I'm going to, let's run to the next station, which the next train station was Utica Avenue. So, and there were tracks going everywhere because they had tracks that goes into Picking Train Yard, which at the time I didn't know. There was like 3 different tracks. And I didn't know which one to pick. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go straight. So we ran and we saw a light. Oh, there goes a station. And then I said, wait a minute. That light is moving. It happened to be the train that was coming at us. So me with no experience at all running around in the tunnels stood against the beam and just like prayed. I said, I would never do this again. If I survive, I would never do this again. Train goes by on both sides. It felt like I was going to get sucked under the train. My friend is there like laughing. Train goes by. I'm like, all right, let's run. Let's get to this station. We get all the way to the train station, ready to walk up the steps to get on the train station. Now there's like three track workers ready to come down. I'm like, oh my God. Turn around, run back the other way. Run back the other way. We must have been into the tunnel. We must be running around for about a good hour. Thank God that we all survived. And I said, I will never do that again. I would never, ever do this again. This is crazy. I don't know why people do it. And the next day, I was back at it again. Yeah.
So
that was one story.
That's quite an introduction to the world of train painting. A very crazy way to be indoctrinated. And so, were you at the time already writing Sonic?
Yeah.
So, question for you. So, where did the name come from? How did you decide or land on that name? Sonic, are you there? Can you hear me? Hello there. Can you hear me well, Sonic?
We're losing connection.
We're losing the connection for some reason. Are you there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. So here we are. We're back.
I can hear you now. All right.
So a great indoctrination or a great sort of beginning to a career of painting trains. Why Sonic? Why'd you come up with the name Sonic, and why did it stick for you?
Well, I had, coming up as a toy like everybody does. Nobody comes up as a master from day one. But my first name was SIP, SIP. I don't know. I just try to come up with a name that had like easy letters to write, and then I started writing Dr. J because my name is Jesse, and I used I don't know why I used Dr. J. I guess because of the basketball player. And then I started using Super J, and then it was Supersonic J. And then I took out the Super and the J, and I just kept Sonic. And at that time, the airplane, the jet, the supersonic transporter was always flying over my house in Rockaway, Queens. So the loud sonic booms that came across the sky was really exciting for me. And I still with the name Sonic, I guess for that reason. Yeah.
And so where did you learn how to, on here, we see a piece, the letters are connected. Where did you learn how to paint? Like, when did you start to go from the tags that you were mentioning before to start piecing and getting good at it?
Well, in junior high school, like the way I got into graffiti, it was the way I got into Graffiti Style. It was the baddest kids in the class used to have like a round table where you used to try to do graffiti. And at first, it was just basically bubble letters and block letters and so on. And I used to go over there and just like look over their shoulders and be like, "Oh, what are you guys doing over there?" And basically, they would just cover up. They didn't want to show. It was one of those things. They wanted to keep it like to themselves, the so I would just take a glance, and I would try to remember what I'd seen, which you really can't. I don't have that kind of photogenic memory. But I started creating my own stuff. At first, some of these guys are like, "Man, what is that, man? I seen better toys than that." And I was like, "Whoa, really?" I said, "All right, cool. All right, I'm getting somewhere. I'm cool. I'm attracting attention now." And from there, I was like, "Yo, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. You call me a toy if you want. I mean, I'm having fun learning how to do this, and at least I'm doing my own style." And they're like, "Yeah, if you call that style." So a year down the line, I started. My stuff was so overkill because I would see Vinny's piece had an arrow on the Y that went into his name. So what I did, I put arrows going everywhere. I had maybe sometimes 100 arrows shooting all over the place.
Here you go.
Yo, I can hear
Sonic.
you
All right, perfect. So we had a slight connection issue. I don't know whether it was on your side or on my side.
Okay.
We got you back. And so, you gave us a deep sort of personal dive into your first journey into the tunnels. And it's such an important sort of tradition that you jumped into, seeing Vinny on the trains, seeing the other writers wanting to participate and deciding to go in there as a kid and having a really bad experience that first time out. But you go back and eventually you start picking up style and you start doing these things that are pretty complex and that are pretty extraordinary. And so I want to share a series of images with you of some of your works so that you could tell us a little bit about the development of your style. But one of the things that I've noticed is that you were an illustrator and you were drawing, and you see, from what I just heard, you were practicing. How much was drawing part of your practice?
Well, when I was a kid, since as long as I can remember, I was like one of those kids that in school, like I can remember back until the first grade, and I used to draw. I used to draw my ass off, and that was before, of course, that was before graffiti. You know, I guess that's what attracted me to graffiti. It was just that it was more than just putting it on paper, you know.
And so when you started drawing, I mean, I guess you were drawing your whole life. Once you started drawing graffiti, you had the challenge of drawing letters with style. How did you learn the style? You were mentioning before looking at Vinny's and then adding lots of arrows to it and then subtracting. How did you land on style, and did you have any teachers along the way?
Well, I didn't have any teachers, but like every graffiti writer, like every artist, they look and they study if they want to improve, you know. And I used to always look at graffiti, and you know, and fortunately, when I was writing graffiti in the beginning, there was only like I said, bubble letters, block letters. You know, it started off with the tag, and then the tag became wider, and then the tag had an outline around the tag, which that created the first piece. And that's the way I started. I started off when I was seeing tags turn into pieces, and when I started putting tags, and I started making them into pieces.
So tell us a little bit about this particular style here. So you obviously advanced and you started developing styles that, quite frankly, when I go through, you know, many of these images that we're going to share today, these are very unique, and I hadn't quite seen these styles before. So can you tell us a little bit about this particular style of piece that you're doing? And I'll zoom in here for our audience. So what's going on here?
Okay.
What was this style
Yeah,
about?
I mean, that style right there with the colors. Well, the character, there's a character on top, and he's like fighting off all these villains, you know, which he wasn't a villain. He's like a vigilante, you know. He looked like a gangster, but he wasn't a bad guy. He was just trying to protect himself in the wild world. And there's like somebody try to hit him with an axe. He's stabbing someone in the hand. He's shooting somebody. A blade is falling. So there's a lot of action going on. I like to put action into the graffiti lettering, not to camouflage it, to make people look at it, you know, to get a larger audience. That's why I started drawing into my graffiti. And that's actually me over there, and I'm painting the wall, and I'm painting that whole mural and that whole story behind that one piece. But the red on the top is just like blood, because when there's action and violence going on, of course there's going to be blood. And the letters are just like, they have like sharp edges, and some of it has like weights on the bottom where it can extend and it can clock you upside your head, you know. So it was just like I like to put action into my graffiti, like as though it was like a superhero story, you know, but in an
I got
urban
it.
way.
I got it. So this,
More like a reality than fantasy.
I understand. And so this piece
Because
for everybody
growing
that's
up in
listening.
Brooklyn, you know.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I thought I lost you, man. What was that?
So no, I'm saying for everybody who's on here, this piece is from 1978. Are you with me?
Cat, you're breaking up. Take the picture off for a second. Take the picture off. I think when you put the picture in, it messes up the sound.
So can you guys hear me out there? You know, I believe for some reason we're having a poor connection, so I don't know if it's on your side. I have a full signal strength here, and we're hooked up. But it seems that Sonic,
I think we lost
that on your
communication, bro.
side. your connection, Sonic, seems to be not so good. So can everybody listen to me? If you guys can hear me, give me a thumbs up, please. All right. Sonic, it's your connection that's not working so well that we're having an issue with. But people are... Man, so, you know, we're struggling here with Sonic's connection. And part, you're not funny. So, Sonic, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah. You know what? I think when you put the pictures in, it takes away the sound.
It has nothing to do with me. It's your side that is.
Oh, it's my side. Okay, damn it. All right, now I hear you again, bro.
Tell us a little bit about this style here.
Let me check my internet on my end, bro. Hold on a minute.
So for everybody that's on here listening to us, as Sonic has a bad connection, we'll wait for him to fix that, hopefully. You know, the styles that we're showing here are styles from the 1970s and the late 1970s. And so what you're seeing is, you know, some of his very early work. And so we just lost Sonic. Unfortunately, we're going to try to get him back in just a minute. Let's see if we can get him back. So the styles that we're seeing from Sonic are styles from the 1970s. And I really wanted to share those styles with you and with everybody in particular, so you could see how advanced graffiti and style writing was in the 1970s. And if you guys could get me Super Cool 223, I see you guys commenting there a few times. I'm down to do it. But from what I understand, he does not want to be found or interviewed. But I'm interested in it. And so for those of you out there that are listening to this conversation, and many of you out there were there, some of you out there saw this with your own two eyes, but the styles of the 1970s, contrary to what many people say, were far advanced. And they were styles that maybe aren't even done till today. And so when people say it's ahead of its time, it wasn't ahead of its time. The styles from then were advanced. And so I want to continue to show the work that you shared with me, Sonic. And so hopefully you have a better connection now. You kept cutting in and out.
Nah, sorry about that, bro.
No problem. So, you know, the styles, what I really want to get into with you is style, burning, letter design, because you were known for doing that, for having lots of styles, advanced styles. And I think that many people aren't really so familiar with your work, at least not today, or they're familiar with your work today, but not with your history because we weren't there. And so the work that you shared with us is very important. And I want to be able to share it. And if you want to comment on it or say anything about it, it would be great, because I think that what we're going to share are styles that people maybe have never seen before. And so anything that you could share with us about this?
Okay. Yeah, that's like a whip style. Which let me take off these glasses. Get a better view at that. Yeah, this piece didn't have too many arrows. It's just a different form of lettering that I was doing at the time. I was always experimenting on different styles, and this one I just started making mostly curves and twists and a couple of flathead arrows and drips coming out through the sides. This was this is the 70s style. I think I did this piece in probably 1977, 78.
So was anybody else painting like this or drawing like this at the
You
time?
still hear me, Kat?
I can still hear you.
Well, I tell you the truth, there was nobody. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm losing connection again, bro.
So
yeah, but there weren't too many people out there that had crazy wild style.
So here we have another piece. This one on a train. And here you see an overlapping, interlocking style, again from the 70s. And so, again, a piece that I would say is an advanced burner on a train that is one of these old
Can't hear you,
trains.
bro. The communication.
So you see that, Sonic? This is not Broadway. So, you know, we're having, this is on an A train. And so this is in the 70s. And so when we look at Sonic's work, it's quite elaborate. And here's another shot of a different train. This is in the train layup. And Sonic is mostly from the A line. So can everybody hear me out there? Or am I having a poor connection? We lost Sonic. We're going to try to get him to connect again with us. But I'd like to know if you guys can hear me, if you could give me a thumbs up and let me know that I am still with you. Great. Thank you so much. And so, you know, it's part of the issue of doing these live talks is that we, if we don't have established a good connection with Sonic, we lose it. But I want to continue to share his work with everybody and see if we can get him back on. So let's do it again. We will get him back on here and see if we can continue to get him to share and have him participate. Mr. Sonic.
Yeah, terrible connection, man. I apologize.
You don't have such a good internet strength over there for whatever reason.
I know.
So
maybe we could set up for another day.
We can set it up for another day. We can set it up for another day or record it. I want to try to keep going just for you to, you know, we can all hear it, you know, and so you can continue to talk even if you think we can't hear you. All right.
I didn't know that. I thought that you couldn't hear me. I'm just talking to myself over here.
Now we can hear you clearly. And so I'm going to continue to flash images on the screen. And if you could just share with us a little bit about the style or about the era. The next image that I want to share is a tunnel shot.
Okay.
And the piece is in the tunnel.
Okay, yeah. This train was painted in 1979 in Grand train station. This is when I became like a professional, you can say, in that tunnel. I used to know the ins and outs, and I didn't fear anymore. It's more like when I used to go into that layup, that underground layup, it was like going home, you know. That's how nice it was. It would be the coldest day in the winter. It'd be like below zero, but when you go down there, it's nice and warm. It's like you're in your living room. But getting back to the piece, that piece was my ribbon letters back from the 70s. And that piece right there, it doesn't say Sonic, it says Shorty. It was part of a whole solo whole cart that I painted in 1979. And that train with that style, nobody was using that style at the time. And I mean, there's a lot of people who can try to take credit for it, but you know, facts, you know, and document photos can prove who was the real guy who was out there doing the styles back in the days. I mean, back in the days, I didn't have that which teach me style, because that's something I didn't have a problem with. Now, getting around, that's another story. You know, like you're a young kid, you don't want to go into certain by yourself. And so I had a few graffiti artists team up with me in that sense to travel around to go painting in different yards without having to worry about getting mugged or jumped or so on. So I met Ink 76. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this guy, but he was a graffiti writer from the 60s. And when I met him was in the early 70s, like 1974, 75. I met Ink, and I was already painting on trains and so on. And he took me to different train yards that he knew, which I didn't know about. And I really appreciate that from Ink. Me and Ink became real good friends, and we became graffiti partners at that time. But getting back to the graffiti style, my thing was I used to go to sleep, and style used to just pop up in my head, and I just would wake up, and I'll have like a drawing pad right next to me, and I would try to draw it, and I'd just go back to sleep. And when another idea came up, I always had a pad with me, and I would just, you know, put it down on paper and remember it. And I was at that time I used to get bored on making the same style, so I would always change up and try to add more or try to take away some, because sometimes it was just overkill. And you know, you want people to recognize and be able to read your graffiti, so try to make it legible and wild at the same time. And colors, you know, coming from Coney Island, Brooklyn, when I was young, there were a lot of hippies, you know, doing their LSD and getting high, and they used to I was walking with my mother, and I noticed that they had these painting with some fluorescent paint. And I stopped, and I just started looking at this stuff that they were doing and didn't know what it was. And my mother just started pulling me and saying, "Come on, let's go, let's go." And I'm like, "Hey, Mom, I got to see this stuff. This is amazing. What is it? What is it? I want to go see." And she just like basically dragged me away from these hippies that were dressed in paint. But that stood in my head in the sense that I wanted to use these colors that I remember seeing. And it always stood in my head, and I always try to use as much colors as I can. I try to stay away from realism when it comes down to painting. I try to use fantasies, colors that actually comes out and just hits you in the face. It make you go, whoa, what kind of colors are those you got going on there? But yeah, this piece here, I painted, I would say 78, 79. At that time, I was graffiti partners. I was graffiti partners with what people know him as Ramelzi at the time. Ramelzi, I met Ramelzi in 1973, 74, and he was on a train station on 67th Street, and he came up to me and he asked me, did I write graffiti? And I said to him, I said, yo, you just see me tag up. Of course I write graffiti. I said, do you write graffiti? And instead of answering me, he pulled out this piece of paper out of his pocket and unfolded it. And he showed me this graffiti style that he made, which it basically looked like a tree, but like a branch with a hollow end, like with a fireball coming out of it and so on. So he said, yeah, well, this is my style. And I looked at him, I said, all right, cool, man, cool. So basically, I was hanging out with Ramelzi, we were tagging, and he wanted to learn how to do graffiti lettering like what I was doing, and he wanted to learn how to draw because he basically didn't know how to draw. And actually I said, no problem, dude. I'll show you step by step. First thing I had to show him is how to use a pencil because he couldn't even hold the pencil right. So I said, you got to relax your hands. Put your hand down, take a deep breath, and relax. Now, just get used to your pencil. Get used to your tools first before you try to create a masterpiece. So one thing led to another. I was doing the ribbon letters, and he wanted to learn. So I was teaching him the ribbon letters, but it's hard to make ribbons when you're using a ruler because he was always using a ruler. I said, dude, stay away from the ruler. You know, you gotta go freestyle. But he couldn't get away from the ruler because he liked the straight lines and he liked the straight arrows and so on. So, but basically I just showed him how to fold the letters. It was easier for me to fold letters than it was for me to show him the ribbon. So, and then I started teaching him. The more I was teaching him, the more I was getting deeper into different styles and so on as time was going by. So I got so crazy into wild style that I had to step back and stop doing it for a little while because people couldn't read it. So I had to go legible because a lot of graffiti artists that was painting their names legible was getting more fame because they were getting noticed because people can read it. So basically I started painting simple letters, which I didn't really want to do because my thing is wild style. That's my love, just making letters, because being a real true subway graffiti artist, it was not only the first thing is to be able to tag and get up. The second thing is to be able to do the bubble letters, the throw-ups, to get it around. This way people can see it. And then the third step was doing masterpieces and then competing against other people in style, not only in just getting up. Because my thing is that I had 100% love for people that were getting up. People that was getting their names up on every train, what was my thing, you know, you got to, Vinny was there. And then during Vinny's time, Jester came along. DY167 was hitting all the trains. During that time, there was In. And then later on, Is the Wiz started getting up. And then Is just forget about it. Jester took a chill, and then Is went on this bombing spree that nobody could take away from him. I mean, he's the true graffiti bombing king of all time, is the Wiz. But besides that, getting back into the graffiti style, is that doing graffiti style, you could spend 8 hours just painting one train. And that takes away a lot of time from you getting up, because in 8 hours, I could have bombed the whole train yard, instant tags. But I was like getting away from bombing, because I used to do bombing like 5 days out of the week. And then painting burners, I used to pick 1 day out of the week or every other week to save up enough paint and to come out with a style and a new background and a new story behind the piece to paint. The Sonic Bad piece that came out in Subway Art, the reason why that train came out in Subway Art is because I had to go paint on the IRT lines, which is the number line, which at that time I wasn't really painting the number lines. I was a IND writer, BMT writer. I used to hit the INDs and the BMTs. And Henry Chaffant, the all-time king of photography when it comes down to Subway graffiti, he wasn't taking pictures of the IND line. So I started going the extra mile, and I started traveling to the IRTs. This way I could get noticed and get into this game that the IRT riders were doing. So the train Sonic Bad was actually a married cart, which I painted the first cart, and Ink 76 and Joke 61 was on the second cart, which didn't come out in the book Subway Art, which that wasn't too cool, but it would have been nice. I mean, it's part of that whole story that night. And in that picture right there, you can see the second cart, which that's Ink's piece right there. And next to that was Joke 61. And that night we really had a great time. That was like the second whole cart that I have painted on the IRTs. The first one that I painted on the IRTs was with Dondi and Ramelzi. We did a crazy burner on the number 5 train in New Lots. I'm thinking it was the 5 train. Yeah, Lots train yard. Ramelzi said to me, 1978, 79. Ramelzi said to me, yo, I'm going to take you to this guy Dandi's house. And I said, who's Dandi? So he said, Dandi is one of the guys that's burning the IRTs. And we're going to go down there tonight to his house, and we're going to paint we're going to do a whole cart together. I said, whatever, man. I wasn't really into painting trains with too many people. I used to like painting the whole train by myself. I was like, kind of, I guess, I don't know, not greedy. I just needed a lot of space for me to do my stuff. And we went to Dondi's house, and I met Dondi. Dondi said, cool, Sonic, what's up, man? I seen your stuff. And I said, cool, man. Thanks, man. And Duro was there, and went to New Lots, and we started painting this whole cart. Now, me to paint a IRT train with 2 other guys there wasn't enough space for me. Reality, it was like I needed more space. But I crushed my name into. They gave me the file with the Sonic, and Melzi did a Risk, and Dondi did a white. And I was done, I would say about 40 minutes. I was ready for my burn. I was just like standing around just watching them. And Ramelzi was just getting crazy. He was just throwing paint on top of paint on top of paint. He kept throwing so much paint on his piece that it was like you couldn't even hardly. But it was coming out dope. And Dondi was just like, he was like kind of upset because he had an outline in his hand, and he was just like, trying to do this piece that it was just taking him so long to do. And I was like, yo, man, I think we got to speed it up. And Dondi was a little upset that I was done so quick, and my stuff came out so fresh, and the style was so new that that I guess it distracted him from finishing up his piece. I mean, Dondi stood on the train painting his piece until we got raided. And then as we were getting raided, I took out the camera and I started taking pictures, and I told everybody, wait, stand right there, don't move, let me get this flick. And we got the flick. As we got the flicks, the cops opened the door and they were jumping out the train, chasing us. And we were gone. I mean, Dondi, that was like his home. So I just followed Dondi right out the train yard, and we were good. We were out. And I never got pictures of the train, or I never seen the train moving. I never seen it in motion. It did come out in Dondi's book, but Dondi didn't put our pieces in this book. I mean, well, whoever made the book didn't put our pieces in it. Maybe Dondi didn't take pictures of our piece. I don't know what happened there. But his piece came out in the book, and it was a dope cart, man. People talked about that train cart. And this guy named Too Cool years later came to my house, and he had pictures of it. It wasn't the best pictures in the world, but it showed that we did come off, and we did a nasty whole cart. And that was the only that's the only train I painted with Dondi. And Dondi was he was a real cool guy, you know. He was very, very mellow. Even when he was mad, he was still mellow. Well, getting back to this piece here, at the time, a lot of people were into Cheech Wizard and Von Bolde, and you know, I jumped on it. I loved his work, and I threw it into the whole cart, and I'm glad I did, you know. And if he was alive, you know, I would thank him for being a big influence for so many graffiti artists. You know, that style was just like, it was just like freestyle. You know, it was like doing a throw up. It was just like, it was unique and very, very, to me, fantastic. You know, but that style that I painted there, I only did maybe a few trains, maybe 3 or 4 trains with that style, maybe more. But I try to step back away from the wild style, like I said, to get a larger audience and for people to read it and recognize it. The Revolution train that I painted in the Revolution 81, I didn't even put my name on it because I wanted to psych people out, like let them figure out who painted the train, because it wasn't the style that I usually use, but I wanted to like I said, attract a larger audience. And on that train, people don't really know, but on one end it says stop the Atlanta killings, and on the other end it says El Salvador, Vietnam #2. Because during that time on the news, that's all you would hear, you know, the stuff that was going on in other countries, that people people in New York City and in America really at you know, young age didn't really pay attention to. And the Atlanta killings was something that people were trying to figure out, you know, what's on this person's mind, and what were they thinking about when they, you know, killing so many people, you know, like strangers at that. Excuse me. But even today with that story is pretty much a mystery, because the guy who they arrested, he still plead innocent, and pretty much. I don't think a guy that young can kill that many people. But getting back into graffiti, graffiti was one of those things, man. It was like, you know, we didn't have the internet back then. We didn't have cell phones. I don't even think the beepers was out then for the public. Basically, it was just for the doctors and so on. But our internet was painting on the trains. It was like each borough, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx, all the different boroughs had different styles. My style was connected with Brooklyn because I'm from Coney Island, and when I moved into Rockaway, Inc. 76 was living in Far Rockaway, and he moved. His mother owned a house in Park Slope, Brooklyn, and we used to travel all the time to Brooklyn. So basically, I learned a lot of graffiti, different styles, going into Roto and Snack. One of them, they were really good in getting up, and their style was so clean. It was basically just two colors. And it was great. It was just great hanging out with those guys because they are a little older than me, and you know, you learn from older people. You know, even though 2-3 years don't seem a lot, but at that time it did. You know, in graffiti at that time, 1 year from 1979 to 1980, they were already a completely different style. Like every few months, there were new styles coming out. Every time I would paint a train, a new style would be out, new colors, you know, new writers. And, you know, I hate to say, but the love of subway graffiti would never be for me. But, you know, of course, the greed of gallery owners and people that wanted to get in on the graffiti game dragged in a group of graffiti artists into their scene and put them in the galleries to turn them into artists, really basically destroyed the whole subway graffiti because they were like, why paint on the trains when we could sell artwork in the gallery? We could be eating wine and cheese and doing interviews and bragging about what we're doing. At that time, I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't with it. I didn't want to paint canvas. I just wanted to paint trains. Maybe that was a big mistake for me, but I mean, I wish I could just get out there and do a burner. And I'm not going to say I'm going to burn everybody because there's too many different styles. I mean, it's like, but just to go out there and burn graffiti, do a graffiti burner would be a dream to me because I still dream about that stuff, painting trains. And the excitement of it was just getting the feedback of people just coming up to you and saying, yo, you're Sonic? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm Sonic. Yeah. I'm more humble about it. And they're like, man, I seen that train. I said, really, you did? Because I didn't even get to see it. Because there were a lot of trains that I painted that I never got to see again. Because, you know, I used to hit the A lines, and the A lines used to divide into so many different train lines that it was almost impossible to get pictures of it. So I started painting a lot of IRT trains because I knew there were a lot of photographers taking pictures of them. So I try to focus on the IRTs, which that gave me a lot of shine painting on the IRTs. Yeah. But getting back to the death of graffiti, the death of graffiti was graffiti becoming art. And when they didn't accept it as more exciting, It was more fun. It was new. You know, it was like listening to rap for the first time. It was like, whoa, what is, man? This is cool. And I used to DJ in the 70s. Inc. 76 used to collect records in 1976, 77, 78. A lot of disco records, and you know, used to listen to a pay and dance to the drummer's beat. And these two turntables, and I started mixing, and I got into it, and it was fantastic. It was all new, and we used to have a lot of fun. People don't know it, but Ramelzi started rapping actually in my room. He picked up a mic and he started rapping, and he used to he bring a echo chamber into my house. We connected it onto my system, and he would rap with nothing but echoes, and it was crazy. I used to tell him sometimes, he said, yo Ram. I mean, his name wasn't even Ram then. His name was Hype, H-I-T-E. And he'd be like, yo, Hype, man. Stop rhyming for a little bit, man. You give me a headache. But it was fun, man. Everything was new. Everything was exciting. You know, it was like, you know, being young and going through the evolution of graffiti and music and rap and DJing. And I'm so happy to be part of that. And, you know, it's not the way it used to be. Like I get up in the morning, get a cup of coffee, and I grab a piece of canvas and I start painting. You know, that's what I do these days. It sounds kind of boring, but it looks exciting. So it's cool. You know, one thing about me, I'm never bored. I always have ideas and imagination. And that picture right there, that's my brother. That's my brother, Crazy Eddie, man. He was my partner. He was like my first partner. The problem was with painting with my brother, Crazy Eddie, it was that I used to have to worry about him. I used to have to worry that if he was going to get hurt or if he was going to get caught, you know. So that was the problem. But my brother, Crazy Eddie, man, we're brothers and we're best friends. You know, it's like we still talk about the old days and what we did and when we got chased and when we used to paint on trains and so on and so on. But my brother's like one of the most talented graffiti artists that I know that a lot of people don't know about, you know. And he was a MC at that. He used to rhyme when I used to mix. And like I said, going back into Hype, he started rhyming in my room and became famous in Europe and in Germany and France, and people was loving his stuff. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. You know, things that started, you know, in my room, basically a lot of style, a lot of rapping and people with a lot of talent, you know. And I'm glad and thank God that I survived living in Far Rockaway. A lot of my friends no longer are alive today. You know, a few of them got killed by the police. A few of them got killed, you know, during bad drug deals and robberies and stuff like that. Rockaway, there wasn't really nothing to do during the winter. During the summer, everybody wanted to go to the beach, but during the winter, there was nothing out there. So that's basically why I did so much graffiti, because there was basically nothing else to do but create and show the people that, yo, we out here and this is what we do, you know. And today,
Sonic,
I never knew that the graffiti that I did on the subways. Yeah, go ahead, man. I hear you. Yeah.
So before you get into the today thing, tell us a little bit about the hand style thing, the tagging thing that we see here.
Oh, the tag style. Well, that's something that that it took me a while to get into tags, but it was like I got hit in the head with a rock or something. It just came to me, and when graffiti.
This is 1981, folks, if you could hear me. And it does look like Ramos's hand style, but this is Sonic right here. And so although we lost his connection, again, we have a poor connection with him. You know, some of the things that he mentioned in this conversation is about mentorship and influence and crew. And, you know, the story that he just shared about Dondi and Ramos Z or Height, pretty incredible. Can anybody hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you could hear me, because I'm not sure that you guys are listening to me or not. All right, Mr. Sess, I guess you guys can hear me. Is that correct? I want to make sure that you guys can hear me so that we can continue. Peace, Curve. Thank you for that. So the story that we just heard from Sonic about going to paint with Dondi and Ramos Z and about connecting, you know, with them and meeting Ram and teaching him and showing him is something that I had never heard shared publicly before. And so I think it's very great to have those stories here and have Sonic school us on this really local history, really old school sort of graffiti history that I might have heard maybe before, maybe not, or it's not really necessarily known. And today Ramos Z is no longer with us, but Sonic is here. You know, Ramos Z's work is being celebrated around the world, but we have Sonic and can connect with him and hear his story. And so I think he's trying to connect with us again. Let's see how his connection's going now. But I want to get a little bit more information on his style of tagging, because in many of Ramos's work, you see that style. And we know where it comes from. It comes from Sonic. You're back.
Yo, I'm on my girl's phone. My phone died, man. Hopefully this phone works better.
All right, let's see. So, you know, one of the things that I was mentioning to our audience as we were talking just a minute ago is those stories that you're sharing us of schooling Height, a.k.a. Ramos Z, of going to paint with Dondi, and those sort of very personal experience that you had is our history. It's your history and it's our history, and we appreciate you sharing that. And I want to ask you in particular, you were just talking about, or we were wondering about tagging style. When you see Ramos Z's works today in museums or galleries or whatever, many of his pieces have like these wild style tags in it or these letters, and he's kind of known for that. But you're known for that in my mind, and people maybe do not know that, or, you know, they weren't there. And so I want to share this piece again here so people can see a style. And this is 1981.
Yeah, that style. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That style right there, I used to do a lot of wild style. I mean, like I said, my thing was wild style. I'm like a wild style freak. I stopped doing wild style because people couldn't read it, you know? But, yeah, me and Height, which people basically know him as Ramauzi, we used to do wild style all wild style tags all day long. You know what I mean? It was like it was just like we were the wild style kings. You know what I mean? And basically, people never really say that, but I mean, we used to do this style all the time, and it just the evolution of it was all about competition, and that's what made the letters become more and more. It's basically overkill. You know, it's like you take the S and you add one loop to it, and then you put a loop across the bottom, and then the S is not script, but it becomes like a script letter, but graffiti style. And then you practice enough, and you could get a loop to come in on. You could get a double loop on the S on the top, and then a loop coming down the bottom with a heart, and that shows the heart is for love always, you know. And like if I take, like you show me the letters now, the S can loop around and is all connected, which it turns into a heart, which is the love of the graffiti wild style. And the stars mean the stars of graffiti, which is we were the stars. We had all the love in the world for graffiti and the people that were involved with graffitis, you know, because if it wasn't for competition, I would never got to the level where I was at. So basically, like I said, it's all overkill. It's all just like trying to add a little bit here, a little bit there, and then perfecting it to a sense that we, as being wild style graffiti artists, can read it. But the average graffiti writers that couldn't do the wild style couldn't read it unless we showed them. And then once we showed them, they go, whoa, now I see it. Now I see where you're going with these letters. And like I said, it was all about competition, adding a little bit more flavor into a simple letter, you know?
So for those of you that cannot read it, you see that Shorty, the bottom tag in the purple says Shorty 1981 Bad Ink. And so, you know, what you're talking about is all in there. Look at that letter T as an example right there. And the way the R loops around.
Because if you look at the letters real good, if you take away all the loops and the stars and all that, it'll look like the first tags that people were tagging with. You know, it's basically old school letters, which is 1980, but it was the beginning of style with more flavor added to it. You know, of course, I didn't invent wild style, but I made wild style more than it was. And it goes with other graffiti artists that they kept it going and they kept doing different styles and different letters. And that's what made graffiti more wild and more creative. And, you know, like you look at graffiti style now and you're like, wow, man, I thought this stuff was going to stop right here. But you know what? It kept going, you know?
So this, look, when you see this 002 that you have here, and that 2 that you know that turns into a circle, and then a hook with an arrow with 2 dots, very wild.
Yeah.
And then you see how Ramel Z starts to do this in his paintings.
Yeah, of course, because we were partners from 1974 all the way to 1979, and then we separated. The reason why we separated is because he didn't want to be around me anymore because I hate to say, but I like to say too, I was more creative when it came down to doing the graffiti. So he just wanted to separate himself from being number 2. When he didn't want to be under me. He didn't want to be under my wing anymore. And he moved on and started doing his own thing, which that's the only right thing to do. And he went on his own and he kept doing the same styles that we were doing together, which basically, you know, as you can see, it's basically the same style. And I was his teacher. So there you go.
Well, I think it's amazing to hear that. And I think it's wonderful that you were able to impart so much wisdom and style that he ran with it and developed it because he created so much work that we could see today. And so, you know, I understand what you were saying earlier about not wanting to go into the galleries and as a personal choice. And he went that way. But now we have all these crazy wild style paintings with these tags that we can look at it, you know, and whether he, you know, gave you credit or not, we know what's up. You're schooling us and we know the history, and we could see this and be like, you know, and we want to give thanks to you for doing that, and also give thanks and recognition to him for putting it down for the sake of preservation and history. Because, you know, these things like, you know, this painting from the early 80s from Ram, or these, you know, these papers, you know, these works on paper, these tags by you, these are pretty rare pieces that people don't get to see too often. There are not that many of these around.
Yeah, I have some stuff that I don't even take out. I take some of my stuff out and it starts falling apart and it starts ripping. And I start to cry. I'm like, ah! And then I sold some of it and so on, you know, and I want people to have some of it, for people could recognize and remember me when I'm no longer, you know, when I expire. I want my name to keep going on, which that's going to happen anyway because of all the books and movies that I came out in. And to talk about books and movies, I was never invited to any of these things back in the early beginning of graffiti time when they started documenting all this stuff. It was like they got it, they got photos of it, and they caught it moving because it was there. I was always doing it, and that's the reason why I became pretty much famous in the graffiti scene. Not like they came to my house knocking on my door and they documented me doing every little step I did. No. They actually seeing my stuff rolling on the tracks while they were interviewing other graffiti artists, while they were bragging about what they were doing. I was actually still doing it. And right. I didn't want to do interviews. And I basically people would never hardly see me in an interview because I basically don't like doing interviews. But right now, I think is a good time to start speaking out and letting people know what I've done and who I am. And it's like being a serial killer, you know, like not to put a graffiti writer as a serial killer, but when we used to paint on trains, we used to say, yo, we're going to go kill a train. And it was like being a serial killer. But if you're a serial killer, are you going to show your face and do interviews on TV and let people know who you are? No, I was totally against it. I was like, whoa, if I show my face, then I can't paint anymore.
Right.
And that's the last thing on my mind was to stop painting. I just wanted to keep doing it.
Well, I mean,
but to make a long story short about that is that, you know, I had to stop because it wasn't fun no more. It was like so many new writers were coming out, and the graffiti rules and the way graffiti writers used to be wasn't there no more. It was a lot of people just going over each other, and there were new writers that were just writing for one night and just write over everybody and never write again. And there were like people that wrote for a year and try to consider themselves kings, you know?
So let me, just to recap, you know, what you're saying a little bit, you know, you like everybody else, and a lot of people, I guess, to put this in context and just to remind people, painting trains is illegal. Painting trains was illegal, has always been illegal. And so you can't put yourself out there and claim ownership of the artwork because you risk your anonymity being over and your identity being revealed and then getting arrested, right? And obviously, you know that you're doing it illegally. You know that it's not allowed. You're breaking into the train yard, and so you're not going to admit committing a crime to end your career.
Exactly.
Right? That's just facts, exactly. And it's really just common sense. And so, you know, the people that paint trains, the artists that choose to paint trains, whether it's back in the days like you're talking about or today, because there is a great train painting movement happening around the world today, right now.
Exactly.
Those people are,
and they don't show their face.
They don't show their face. They don't write their real names.
Exactly.
And they do this to protect themselves from the consequences of a criminal justice system that is intent on destroying them if they were to be identified and caught. And it's very dangerous, not the act of painting, but the action of getting caught, because they give you tremendous amount of fines and also prison time. And who the hell wants that?
Yeah. It's like you're better off robbing a bank, you know, because you're going to get the same kind of charge, basically. You could rob a bank and get out of jail in a year. And if you go hit a train, you could go to jail for 5 years. And you'd be paying summonses out of yang yang.
It's pretty strict. Unfortunately, it's pretty strict. But meanwhile, you know, artists that are deciding to do it legally are able to reap benefits or sell paintings for lots of money. But the artists that they look up to, that are painting trains, or maybe that they're inspired from, are demonized or criminalized in a way that they can't really, you know, be celebrated in the same way. But we know because we respect this art form, whether it's legal or illegal. We respect it for the sake of it being artistic, for the quality of the art, for, like you're saying, the intricacy of the style, the originality of the style, what the artist brings to the table, not whether it's legally done under train or not. The illegality of it is almost of no consequence, even though we understand that they've taken an incredible risk. So I want to, you know, and the reason why I say that and recap that is because around the world, there's these neighborhoods now that have sort of like these walking tours, and everything is very sweet, and everybody comes out and celebrates what they're seeing, but they don't know whose shoulders these new artists are standing on. Artists like yourself, who painted trains, or maybe like, you know, many of us are friends that we know that continue to paint trains, that take the risk to be able to get the work out there in the public. So that said, you painted, luckily every now and then you painted a canvas, and now you mentioned you paint canvases, you know, full time, or you make art full time. It's the way that you've chosen to now make a living. It
was an accident, you know.
As a retired graffiti writer, in a sense, right? Because you're not on the trains anymore, and so you're like this retired dude with this white beard, you know, who's finally, you know, out there, you know, sharing in a different way, right? You don't want to be chased running down the tracks, even though you might, like you said, you might wish that you were able to still do that, you know.
Yeah.
But the young cops would, you know, run circles around you.
Oh, forget about it. And them damn tasers, man. I don't like that, man.
No one wants to get tased. No one wants to get shot by the police. So I get it.
Yeah.
But I want to show, you know, what are the paintings that we have on display at the Museum of Graffiti, which is one of your pieces that we really, really love, and that we show and we talk about all the time when with any visitors that come in. They get to see this piece that is a very interesting piece. Can you tell us a little bit about this piece?
Well, this piece was done, I would say, in the early '80s. It was a breakthrough. You know, at that time, I was still trying to find myself, like, almost at that stage where I wasn't really painting trains the way I used to. So it was like trying to grab graffiti and still have fun doing it, but without all the excitement to paint it on canvas. So I threw the spray can in there as an eye. I threw the colors that I like that blend together. I put a shadow 3D on it to actually bring the letters out. I put it like in a blue background, which is, it's like in the winter, it's cold. It's like sharp. And the letters, I tried to keep them organized in a sense that you could still read it and not too wild. And all the cracks was just like me just punching to the other side, you know, like getting away from graffiti and moving on with my life. That's what I thought at the time. But it never happened. I never moved on. I'm still a graffiti writer at heart. Even though I'm an artist, I mean, a lot of people still today don't consider graffiti as art. But to me, you know, if you're doing it for a living, it's art. I mean, you could just take a canvas and put a line on it and people consider it abstract art. But if you make it with a tag, graffiti style dripping is not art anymore. It's graffiti. So, you know, it depends who's looking at it and who knows what it is. But the style that I did there is basically putting it on canvas. It was a totally different vibe than painting on a train or a wall or being chased or looking over my shoulder. It was more just like sitting down at home with a couple of my friends, smoking some joints and drinking some beer and just basically freestyling. Because anytime I would do a canvas or I would paint a train, or I can't even count how many times I took an outline with me to actually premeditate what I do. Everything I do is basically spontaneous. It's like, well, I'm gonna go grab this marker because I don't need an eraser, because whatever goes down on that piece of paper or canvas, that's the way it's going to be, and that's the way I'm going to finish it. Nothing's there is planned. It's all the way I feel at that moment.
So,
yeah.
you know, mentioning these styles that you're doing, you know, we talked a little bit about it and how you've made, you know, things very legible when they were on the trains. But now that you're doing, you know, works on canvas, you allow yourself to go pretty wild. I mean, and here we have an example of a very, very intricate and wild piece. And
Sorry about that. Trying to make sure this phone don't die.
You know,
yeah,
to share with some of your canvas work.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes they say people lose it, but it's like sometimes I gotta step away from what I'm doing because there's sometimes I just don't want to do it, you know. And but in my brain, you know, because you know, graffiti writers and artists, they're not normal. They see things different than the average person. And sometimes in my head, it just snaps. It's like, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa! I could see it so clear that what I'm doing. And like I said, it's not planned out. It's just what I feel at that moment. Which way am I gonna move that paint? Am I gonna swing it over my head to the right, or am I gonna go like swing it under or put a straight line across for my first stroke? I don't know. I just do it. But what I try, like with this canvas here, I just try to keep it new, but keep it original and true as what I learned from New York City and the subways and living the life as being a kid, running through the trains and getting chased. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be an artist today. I would probably be a mechanic because I love cars and I work on cars. But graffiti changed my life. It like once I put my foot into it, it was like quicksand. I got deeper and deeper, and I couldn't get out of it. And like I said, every time I do something, it's going to be new. It's going to be different. I try not to do anything the same. You know, I try to. What I'm doing now is I'm doing stuff that I did back in the 80s. The same stuff. If you look at it, it's the same. It's just that now I'm using different tools and I know which direction I'm going. and I learned to accept how it's going to come out before it's done. And that's the gift that I have of painting, is that I never get upset as what I'm doing, because it's never planned out. It's spontaneous. And I like to use a lot of different colors, and I like to make it look sharp and straight out there where it hits you in the face, you know? And like I didn't say about the folding letters, if you look at it real good, it's just a big piece folded into a small box. And that's basically what a canvas is to me, a small box. Because when I used to paint trains, I had so much space to paint. And the challenge was to get it done in a certain amount of time without getting caught. Or even worse, getting killed, you know? But that's what the folding letters is. It's larger than life. It's larger than what it is. It's bigger and it's better than having just a simple legible piece. Because if it was just simple legible, it wouldn't be Sonic.
I got it. You know, no, it's an interesting, you know, thing that you mentioned is that the piece is so much bigger, but you're folding it down to fit, or you're expanding.
Yeah, I'm just crushing it into.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting approach to letter design, because you could expand and contract at will with that style. You know, and so, you know, all this stuff that you're sharing with us, Sonic, you know, we really appreciate it. I know that you don't do interviews, which is why I asked for an interview.
I'm doing it for you, man.
I know. Listen, and I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it here at the museum. The reason why we do these interviews is to get people like you on here to share your story, because we want to have this history. We want to have it saved. We want people to go back and learn and listen and know the true history of our movement. Not.
I don't want to cut you off, man.
Yeah.
But I want to say something about you. That you don't know it, but I'm going to let you know right here in this interview. You influenced me into staying doing graffiti. Because when I seen you come out, I seen, I guess on Videograph or whatever it was, what you was doing, it made me want to get back into it. And I started painting trains again. But that was short-lived. And I stepped away. I said, I'm not gonna be like Cat. These guys are crazy. You, Ghost, and the last diehard graffiti writers, man, that actually went out there and painted them freaking trains when shit was totally different and so much harder to get away with. I mean, I give you credit from the heart, man. The things you did towards the end of graffiti. You, to me, is the last guys, to me, you know, that really painted trains, was the last guys that was still in the game till the very end. You know,
listen, you know,
I give you credit for that.
I appreciate that. And, you know, and we did it because of you. And I see Nice around here in part. We did it to follow this tradition. And when they cleaned the trains, we weren't going to let them do that on our watch. So we had to continue it. And I think because we continued to paint and we were dedicated to it, we got you to come back. And I remember you
exactly
with some of the Chicago heads that would come to visit, you know. And that inspired them to keep painting trains, and the next generation to keep trains. And as a result, we kept it going, and we kept our tradition alive. You know, like my man Kami on here, he painted the trains back then with us. And so, you know, we're part of a long tradition, starting with cats like you and guys like Vinny before you. You know, we kept this tradition going for a long time. And although I don't paint trains anymore, there's new heads that continue to paint and keep this tradition going, and they keep moving this thing forward and doing really, really wonderful things. So I appreciate you acknowledging me. I don't really like talking about those days because usually they come with like court cases and all that kind of stuff. But thank you. You know, but you know, you sharing your story is important to us, man. Truly, you know, the things that you shared with us. There were so many questions asked on here that we didn't get into, and I know you've given us a lot of time where we gone way over time. So, and we've just basically scratched the surface even. You know,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the beginning because my phone, the connection was bad. But like you said, maybe we could do a pre-recorded stuff and you could ask me some questions and send it to me and I could answer. Because I have, like you said, I have so much to talk about when it comes down to graffiti back then and even of today. You know, like
I have one more question, and you know, and maybe we'll allow if you have a few more minutes, we could allow for some questions from the audience, particularly for those of you tonight that have supported us and bought badges. We'd love to get your questions in, and so if you bought badges today and you want to ask a question, please throw it in the question icon at the bottom here. But my question is, can you tell me about this car?
Oh, yeah, this train right here, I'm telling you, I had so much hate in my heart when I painted this train. I mean, like, I went out to paint this train, and before I painted this train, it wasn't supposed to be World War III. It was supposed to be graffiti war, and it was supposed to say on one end, it was supposed to have a guy shooting, another guy on the other end with a spray can. And it was supposed to say, people live for graffiti and people die for graffiti. But I went by myself and I went on the trains and I had a bad vibe and these cops came up to me and they were just staring at me and they were ready to ask me some questions. And luckily, they something else caught their eye, and they turned their attention to someone else or some other incident that was going on. And I managed to turn around and go home that night. But the following night, I said, you know what? I'm going to have a war on the world. So I came out with World War III because of the commotion that was going on with Ronald Reagan and Russia with the nuclear bombs and all that, and it was a whole big thing, man. And people were thinking it was going to be the end of the world, and so I said, you know what? I'm going to paint this train, and I'm going to call it World War III. And on one end, I'm going to put this skull. And of what the human race is going to become, and on the other end, I put a nuclear mushroom cloud. Which this train, I never got to finish it. My brother was with me the night I did this. My brother Crazy Eddie, he came. He was my lookout that night. Thank God I had him with me because I was so focused on this train and getting it done the right way. And trying to make it neat and legible. And this train, I actually bring an outline. And I rarely bring outlines to the train with me. And the middle of the train, where it's blank, that you can notice that it's the train, that part right there in the middle on the top was supposed to have planes coming over, dropping bombs down. And the back of the World War III is supposed to have like flames and bombs going off. And I was never got to finish it because some work bums came into the train yard and they started making noise. And my brother said, yo, I think we should leave. And we should just hide and wait. So what we did is we hid and we waited for the work bums to leave, and they wasn't leaving. They wasn't going anywhere. And then they pulled the train out, and my heart was broken. I was like, ah! It felt like somebody stabbed me in the heart. I didn't get to finish the train. But
it's a beautiful train nonetheless, and a really beautiful photo taken by Martha Cooper.
Oh my gosh. God bless Martha Cooper for being one of the photographers that actually was taking pictures of the INDs, which I don't think she was taking much pictures of the INDs, but she managed to catch this one. by luck. I'm pretty sure it was by luck.
It was totally
totally
by luck.
Yeah, because it was just sitting there right in the open. I don't know if the transit workers did that on purpose to show the world. I don't know, because I seen that train pulled up in Brooklyn, and I was coming off of work, and the train was parked in Utica Avenue. And people actually went up to the train and was reading it and talking about it and trying to read it. And then they figured out what it said, and they said, World War III. Oh my gosh, this is what's going to happen. And people just started getting involved with that train. And I was just smiling because I didn't say anything, because I wasn't the type of guy that said, I did that train right there. I'm the one. Because there were cops actually there looking at the train also. But
so thank you for that. Thank you for the story and for satisfying my curiosity about it. Anybody out there who has questions, everybody who's out there who's contributed badges, thank you so much. Nicer, Chelsea, Empty, Ross Term, Subway Depot, all you guys, Charlie, Carlos Mayer. You know, we've got a lot of friends in the house. If you have questions,
what's up, everybody?
Now's your chance. We have Mr. Sonic for a few more minutes. And so if you have questions, please let me know. If not, of course I have more questions, but I don't want to keep you on here all night. And so you guys have a minute or two to ask a question. Otherwise, we will keep it moving. Simultaneous 19, thank you for your support. And everybody out there, thank you for your support.
Thank you for watching the show, man. I appreciate it.
If you're a Gemini.
Close, man, close. I'm a Cancer.
And there's a lot of Far Rockaway people in the house. And so Nicer wants to know where you came up with bad, or how you came up with bad. B-A-D.
Oh, that's funny. I was gonna bring that up, but I started talking about so many different things. But I used to, every time I would paint, I lived right across the street from this park. It was called Bayswater Park. And I used to go in there, and I used to practice, and I used to take my leftover paints that I wouldn't use on the trains, and I would paint in the park. And every time I did a piece, the reaction of the people were, yo, that's bad. Yo, that is bad. And I used to hear a lot of that, yo, that's bad. So I used to write, when I used to write my name, I used to write bad before I turned it into Bad Ink Corp. And that's how bad started, by people just saying that that was bad. People used to use that word a lot. They still use it today, but back then they used to use it a lot. Like they turned around and they started using the word fresh and dope and so on. But one of the first words was bad. Yo, that's bad. And you gotta be good to be bad.
So, another question is, do you still throw up an occasional tag?
Every now and then, yeah. Trust me, I always get the urge of like just writing on something I'm not supposed to. And every now and then I do. And then I worry that it's gonna get back to me. But I think if I do my wild style tags, I don't think people won't be able to read it as much, and I could probably get away with some of it. But my biggest fear is not getting caught, or not getting tased, or getting beat up. My main fear is having to pay a goddamn summons that I can't afford. That's the main thing, I can't afford to be working to pay off for paying a lawyer and summonses, and that's the only problem I have. But if it wasn't for that, I mean, if graffiti was that if they caught me, they'll cane me, you know what? I'll take the cane anytime. As long as it don't cripple me.
So in lots of your pieces and your older works, there's this recurring type of figure that we see here, this sort of like gangster looking dude. Oh, you know, who is this, and where did this come from?
Well, that gangster is a superhero, which is the superhero of me. Now, that gangster, like I said, he's not a bad guy. He's like a vigilante, you know? So he actually protecting his property, which is his graffiti. And the reason why I started drawing the gangster is because I did it to make people think twice. Uh-oh. Then his phone is going to die.
I hear you. People think twice about
going
over you, huh?
People, yeah, think twice about going over me because they may be a gangster coming after them. I mean, there was actually, I met a few people and I said that I was Sonic, and they was disappointed that I wasn't this big gangster with a big suit and gangster hat and so on. And they were kind of like disappointed. I said, well, that's me. They said, that's not you. You're not Sonic. Sonic is this big bad guy and so on. And I'm like, no, that's me. This little guy, it's the gangster. And that gangster, I actually started him by drawing the Playboy Bunny character. I don't know if you know the Playboy Bunny character, the rabbit.
Yes.
Well, the rabbit, like, that was like one of the first graffiti characters that people were drawing. And I started drawing the rabbit, and I actually put a hat on him, and then I put a cigarette in his mouth, and then I put a bow tie on his neck, and then I started adding more to it. And then eventually I started trimming down that big rabbit nose, and it started turning into developing into my character, which is what it is today. And in the drawing that you showed me earlier, which is in the museum, it has the character with that pointy nose. That's the character that I developed. There he goes, right there. That's the character that was the Playboy Bunny in the beginning, and then I turned it into a round head with a pointy nose, and then I took away the nose and the eyes and the sunglasses, and then it just became the chin with the lips. And it became a lot more simple for me to do and a lot quicker when it came down to bombing, because when I used to bomb that character, I didn't want to draw the nose and the mouth and the eyes. Instead of just doing all that, I made it simple, and I made like his brim just covering his eyes, and this way you can't see who he is, which it made it more mysterious, and it made it a lot more cooler, you know?
Yes,
but
I agree.
Yeah. So, and then I stood with that character, and that became my my icon to my name Sonic.
And so there's a question: Did you or were you influenced by Soul Sonic Force with your name?
Well, Soul Sonic Force, I didn't hear that until like the 80s. I mean, you know, there was no song that had Sonic in it. You know, I think I don't even think the Supersonic basketball team was out then. You know, they turned into the Sonics, but even Sonic the Hedgehog. You know, of course, you know that Sonic the Hedgehog wasn't out before Sonic, and a lot of people were calling me, "Hey, Sonic, is that from Sonic the Hedgehog?" I'm like, you know what? I hate when people say that. I mean, I did like the video game when it first came out. You know, but like you were saying, Soul Sonic Force didn't have nothing to do with me. I was writing my name way before Soul Sonic Force the song came out, you know.
So you know, before we were having some choppy reception, and so we didn't get to share this picture with you or get any comment on this. But I'm guessing this is what you were describing when you were saying you had to go simpler so that people could read your work.
Yeah, it was a struggle for me to go simple because I really didn't want to do it. I really wanted to do wild style, and I just wanted to just like burn letters. But the thing is that a lot of people were getting a lot more credit for using simple letters, and they get, you know, recognized a lot more by just making their name simple. So that's basically what I had to do. And this train has a lot of history behind it, because this train was actually, I started this train on New Year's Eve, 1980. And by the time we were done, we spent New Year's inside the tunnel painting this train. Me, Joe 61, my brother Crazy Eddie was there with me, and another guy named Ivan. He wasn't a writer, but he was there hanging out. And we celebrated New Year's. We had some wine and some liquor, and we drank, which I rarely do because it's very dangerous drinking in the tunnels. You could trip and fall down and fry yourself, you know. Joe 61 ended up getting sick that night and started throwing up all over the place, and it was a mess. But thank God we painted that train. I would say that's the first whole card. I would consider it a burner, even though it don't have burner letters. But it's the first whole card of 1981, if people didn't know it, because we painted that from 1980 and we left there in 1981. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And influenced by Von Bolde.
Beautiful.
With his characters.
Beautiful car.
And on the end, I don't know if anybody noticed, but it's actually a UFO taking off, and it says 1981 on it. Yeah, that's a UFO shooting out. It's the weirdest thing in the world, because I painted a UFO on that train, but a few years after that, I actually seen a UFO flying. I was with my brother, and everybody's asking me, was you smoking? And of course I was. But the weed was never that good to see UFOs flying in space.
Well,
but
they probably knew that you painted them, so they wanted to reveal themselves to you.
I don't know. Maybe somehow I have a communication with the other side. I'm pretty sure we all do. You know,
listen,
but
you shared so much with us today, man. You know, from all these pieces, you know, all these great styles that many people never
this train
saw
right here.
before.
Let me say one thing. This train right here was actually bombed, and if you notice, the top of it looks clean. We actually took silver and painted the top to make it look like a clean train, and to keep the letters below the windows for the conductors, for the track, for the MTA workers won't have to buff the windows. If you notice, they only buffed. We just nipped the windows a little bit. We thought we could get away with it, but they ended up buffing a little bit of the clouds that were on there. But yeah, we cleaned that train up. We painted it up silver on top and made it look really clean. Yeah.
Such a good one. And you know, this is an early style for you, and you can see sort of the bottoms all connecting, sort of that style from the 70s where all the letters at the bottom had to have sort of this platform connection, but the top of it are all interlocking and weaving and overlapping. It's so good.
You know, I actually redrew that, and I had to say, I said, man, that was pretty good. I actually, you know, like when I look back at my, like when I do stuff and I move on, I barely look back at what I've done. I just try to move forward and keep moving on and on. And when I go back, like I stopped for maybe 2 years. I got out of it, and then like I didn't go through my pictures, and then I went into my stuff and I started pulling out some pictures, and I started looking at some of the stuff I did, and I started crying, man. I was like, oh my God, this is the shit that I missed this shit so fucking much that I actually cried when I was looking at it. I was by myself, so I just wiped off the tears and I was like, all right, let's move on. We got to keep up to today's game, you know? But
you've been doing it. You've kept up. You've kept up and you stepped up and you've been traveling around the world painting, you know?
Yeah, and the reason why is because I used to hit trains. If I didn't hit trains, man, I would never be who I am today. You know, that's what kept me going, is that people came up to me and said, listen, you know, you want to go to Europe? You want to tell your story? People want to know who you are. You know, people think that you're fucking amazing. I'm like, what? Are you serious? Why? They said, because of what you did on the trains. You don't realize how many people you influenced, you know? I went to Europe, I went to France for the first time, and Mo too, out of all people. I mean, I seen his work, and I thought he was amazing. I was like, oh, man, this guy's fucking amazing, man. I love his work. And he came up to me, and he said, I actually influenced him into painting ladies, you know, naked ladies and so on, the stuff that he's doing today. And I said, are you serious, man? Wow, man, because, you know, you would never think that, you know, that people would actually, you know, get influenced through the graffiti that I did so long ago. Well, and a lot of people gave me a lot of credit.
Well, listen, with people like Mo, you got to remember that when the book Subway Art came out, and just like Style Wars came out, and you were mentioning before that your trains were running and people were able to see it, that was the first bit of information that many people received. And so those pictures, when you talk to people about the book Subway Art in other countries and other cities around the world, you know, most old school writers from their city will admit to copying those pieces and drawing those pieces, whether it's the Kell or that that too many outline that was the sketch in that by Dondi in that book. And so I'm not surprised that you were an influence to him, and not only to him, but to so many people out there in the world. It's just, you know, you were there, you were part of it, you were, you know, active at the time, and so you were included in the book as you should have been, and as you were fortunate enough to have been included. And so, you know, that made a big impact.
Well,
There was another question by Sade, who wants to know if you ever painted with Baby 168.
We never painted together. We were I guess we were supposed to. I met him, I would say I think I met him, it was like 2000. Yeah. But a lot of people came up to me and said there was another graffiti writer that looked like me. It was funny. And I was like, really? And then when I met Baby 168, he had his the ponytail going on and the same leather jacket I was wearing. I was like, whoa, what's going on, man? We kicked it pretty good.
I'm gonna share one more piece, and then I think we're gonna call it a night. And this is just from one of your travels, I believe. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. Hanging out with Part, man. Yeah, we did that, 2010? I don't know. I forget, man. You know, I went to Europe so many times that I started forgetting what year. I get things mixed up. My memory is not too good when it comes down to dates, you know. But I would say about over 10 years ago we painted that, and I painted those. I also painted the characters too. I wanted to fill in the areas, and I wanted to have something like crazy and, you know, like, and quick, you know, because I didn't want to spend too much time, because it was like, I mean, you could ask Part about that night, that day. It was so hot. It must have been like about 100 degrees. And also Congo was there with us, and he did the top. If you see the top that says Congo up there. Yeah, but I basically try to keep it simple but clean. You know, I did the folding letters. You know, I like I said, I did those characters, and the piece came out pretty good. You know, I would say, it came off pretty good.
So Sonic, I want to sincerely thank you, man, and you know, for all your time, for sharing these stories and your journey and schooling us on your history. And it means a lot to all of us that are listening, and all of those who are going to be listening to this in the future. We really appreciate you and all the great art that you've given away for free all these years on the trains, on the walls. Like, you know, it's not lost on us that this is all free art out there in the world for us to enjoy and appreciate. And I really, really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I know you do it because you love it. And we want to salute you for that and acknowledge you as one of the great writers of this art movement that we celebrate here in the museum. And so for all of you out there who've been listening, thank you so much. For all of you that come and visit us at the museum, thank you. And you'll see Sonic's work in the museum here in Miami. For all of you that contributed tonight and donated money to the museum, thank you very much. And your questions, all of that, we really appreciate all that you do to support us, to continue our efforts to create the world's only, or maybe the world's first, or whatever, the Museum of Graffiti that we have here in Miami. And we believe in our work. We believe it's important. And part of that work is to interview heroes, pioneers, legends, active writers, and all of those out that have been contributors to this movement. And so also thank you to your lady for letting you borrow that phone and change the game for us.
Oh yeah, man.
So big ups to you and to her. We hope to see you
Big
down
shout
here
out to
in
my girl
Miami.
Ruse.
Yeah, Ruse, thank you.
And to my boys, Ink 76, my brother Crazy Eddie, my daughter Sonica, you know, and there's so many names that I could give shout outs to. My boys in Europe, Congo, Lazoo, K1, KA from New York. I mean, Joe 61, so many people, man, that actually kept me going with this whole graffiti scene. Ink 76, of course, that's my big brother, my best friend, you know. It's like the list goes on and on and on and on, man. And I apologize for me not shouting out some names, but if I shout out all the names of all the people that put a lot of love in my heart and gave me respect, I'll be here all night, man. But BAD crew, Mac crew, you know, T-Kid, Cope, you know, these brothers, you know, they gave me a lot of love, and T-Kid is still doing his thing. I love it. Part, my bro, you know, he's still doing his thing. You know, we got Scheme came back out doing amazing stuff. You know, we got all these old school cats that came back. You know, the ex-Vandals, you know, Ale, all these guys just coming back out. It's a beautiful thing, you know. It's something that we have in our heart that, you know, like we lost a lot of graffiti writers, you know, during the pandemic time and before then. And these guys lived graffiti until the day they died. And hopefully all the graffiti artists will feel the same way and give respect to the dead and to the living, you know. And that's basically it. I'm going to shut it down.
Thank you. Yes, rest in peace.
And thank you so much for putting my artwork in your museum. And a lot of people, you know, they talk about it. They give me they say, hey, I seen your stuff in the museum. I've been to Miami and so on. So it's a great thing that I could actually still have a few pieces that I could still select on who I want to sell it to or give it to keep the graffiti movement moving, and, you know, to give a little bit of shine back to me, like a reflection, or for other writers that reflects onto me that I was part of the foundation of graffiti wild style lettering, and nobody could take that away from me. And love to all the diehards and fans, of course.
One of the interesting things that you'll notice when you come down and visit is that where your piece is hanging, across from your piece on the opposite wall is a Ramo Z piece.
Wow, man.
So you guys are looking at each other, hanging out together again. Although,
like I said, we were best friends for years. He used to come to my house every day. He used to come over for the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And then, you know, sometimes you got to just break off to follow your dreams. And that's what he chose. And I give him much respect for that, because he became very legible, and he'll never die. And people love his music, and I have some of his records. And like I said, when he used to rhyme with me, I couldn't bear it. But I miss those days, man. I miss it a lot. And, you know.
Thank you for taking us down memory lane today, man. Thank you so much. And so, you know, we wish you a great night. Thank you. And then for all of you, just so that you know, I'll be back on Thursday with another art talk. We'll have Esteem from Philadelphia, so tune in to us then. Thank you again, Sonic, for your time and figuring out everything. Peace.
Everybody have a good night.
Good night, Sonic.
You too.